churches, church leaders, theological institutions, and other key players to effectively address all barriers to the elimination of HIV, such as sexual gender-based violence, stigma, discrimination, marginalization, among others. Yes, now how does Love Matters come about? For 5 years now, brethren, I want to report to you that annual statistics on the prevalence of HIV and AIDS in Eastern Africa have consistently reported the increasing number of new HIV infections among young people. And with the awareness that Eastern Africa and Africa at large are regions where the biggest percentage of their populations, that's basically actually more than 70% are people below the age of 35. That is very, very, very risky and troubling. In the past, WCC-EHAIA has been engaging with young people, and in our engagements, we learned that one of the reasons why we are having new HIV infections happening among young people more than in any other age bracket is because there was a lack of accurate information on sex, sexuality, and reproductive health issues among young people. So this lack of information continuously renders young people to, making uninformed decisions that make them susceptible to SGBV and the transmission of HIV in their endeavors to experience and express love. So having learned that, we also noted from the young people that as we grow, as children grow, as people grow, as they go through adolescence and, early adulthood, they accumulate so many questions about their identity, their sexuality, reproduction. And these are themes that actually occupy a pivotal role in socialization as far as human communities are concerned. So what happens when young people get these questions? They try to look for answers, beginning from their parents, from church leaders, and other custodians of morality in society. But their search for answers, in most cases, from those people was being met by prejudice, dishonesty, reprimanding, and sometimes total silence, where they want answers, but the custodians of morality, the parents, church leaders, they don't want to speak back. They have nothing to say. They leave them to navigate around these questions by themselves. So what this results into is increasing the curiosity of the young people. And out of that curiosity, they resort to other ways of finding responses to the questions they have about sexuality, about reproductive health, about their identity, and other things. And some of the alternative ways that young people are employing to find their responses include ways like, going into the space to practice, the things so that they get what they call first-hand information. And this involves practicing unsafe sexual practices, doing media surveys that expose them to a wide range of inaccurate information, myths and misconceptions, and other ways that are actually risky. So having learned that, we were deliberating on how we would spend the Valentine Eve of 2021. And then we just realized that actually to respond to this challenge, we needed to provide alternative ways through which young people actually can engage with these, public holidays like Love Matters that excite, that raise the emotions of young people, that excite the whole atmosphere in a way that actually is more productive than the ways that are organized by the secular community that in most cases actually end up putting young people at risk of contracting HIV and perpetrating or suffering from SGBV. So that's how Love Matters begins as an ecumenical program, and it was put in place by WCC to ensure that it can provide a safe space where honest and stigma-free intergenerational and intragenerational conversation on the matters of love that are relevant to the fight against HIV and AIDS, are held. And we are thankful to God that we have so far worked so well that today we are now attending our 5th webinar. The first webinar that happened on a day before Valentine's, we had dialogue on the different perceptions of love within our communities and our contexts. We saw how these perceptions are built and how these perceptions contribute to vulnerability to SGBV and the spread of HIV and AIDS. In the second webinar, we were able to interrogate how actually biblical messages on love are applied in our communities, how misleading theologies have been developed, on love, and from biblical scholars who were our facilitators that day, we are able to learn how we can engage with the different biblical messages of on love in ways, that affirm life, promote gender justice, and also holistic health among young people. We also had the third webinar following the second one, and in this webinar, our dialogue basically deliberated on mental health in dating, courtship, and marriage. In that webinar, we were able to interrogate how some cultural norms, values, teachings, and practices render young men and women vulnerable to SGBV and the continued spread of HIV. Recommendations from the third webinar dictated that the following one would handle trauma healing and management in relationships. And in this webinar, we had two facilitators, one of them being Charlie, who is with us today. And when we finished that webinar and did the evaluation, the young people suggested that we should have another one, what would be the 5th webinar, to continue with the discussion, but this time around, to learn how we can identify red flags in relationships and also how we can respond to abuse in relationships. What is different is that this request this time around came with a condition that the young people wanted to have Charlie back to speak to them. So I think, Charlie, you did a very, very great job in the 4th webinar, and we are happy to see you again today. Now, today's session is happening in the context of the 16 days of activism, just like our moderator noted earlier on. And I can say that the topic on abusive relationships and red flag is very, very timely, for it is actually widely accepted that abusive relationships are currently the main bleeding grounds for most of the forms of SGBV that we are experiencing. And they also offer fertile grounds for the spread of HIV, STDs, and mental illnesses. And the fact remains that many religious and cultural teachings in our communities actually disarm us, especially people who have been victims of these abuses, from the urgency that they disarm us of the urgency that we need to save ourselves from such relationships. Remember, in the time of COVID-19, when everyone needed a shoulder, what happened is that most people turned into abusers, sexual offenders, exploiters, perpetrators of all forms of violence, in the different relationships in which they were engaging. These realities, as we can see, have left behind a lot of economic, health, and social scars that I think are going to be very, very costly to heal. The teenage mothers, the people who have suffered marginalization, the people who have been victims of SGBV and abuse in relationships are everywhere, crying out for love. Love that is pure, love that is kind, a love that is genuine, love that is patient and transformative. So it is my desire that as we engage today and in the future webinars that we are to have on this theme, we can learn to become the ambassadors of this kind of love, that we can become inspired to continue dreaming of a region, of a continent where all people exist in harmony, in mutual respect, in enduring love, in peace, and in holistic health. An Africa where HIV and AIDS is no longer a public health threat, and where pandemics or public health pandemics, when they come about, their impact can be minimized such that it does not disrupt the well-being of people. WCC-EHAIA is so confident in the transformative power of the young people, and we are so convinced that the young people can change the narrative of Africa. This conviction is always expressed by our regional coordinator, Reverend Dr. Pauline, who always scorns that young people are the game changers, and young people can change their reality by saying no to abusive relationships and other things that endanger their lives. So it is this kind of conviction that inspires EHAIA to invest resources in such a program, such that there can be enough mentorship to ensure that the team of transformative young people expands, and to ensure that we can light our light, we can shine so bright such that we cannot be overshadowed by any barriers to the change that we want to see. So actually moving forward, I think we need to open this platform to more mentors for deeper intergenerational conversations on reproductive health issues. We need to open the platform to more adolescents, especially those in high school and in lower classes, because I can see most of us are from campus communities and after school age groups. So we need to have more of the young people so that we can, journey with them. We also need to deeply now engage with the socialization process that forms the male, and female personalities, such that we can get to identify where and how we can transform this process for us to achieve the Africa we are dreaming of. As I conclude, I want to wish us a very wonderful webinar and discussion. But I also want to submit to us that after this webinar, we can think about having a virtual end of year fellowship or party or webinar to mark, the climax of this Love Matters webinar series, but also to, for us to enter the new year in style. I'm sure none of us has entered the new year with another community virtually. So it would be good if we, the Game Changers family, we participants in Love Matters, we come together and, journey together from 2021 to 2022. So if we agree to this proposal, we can plan to meet from 31st December at around 10 p.m. And then, we interact up to 12:30 a.m. on 1st January. So you can think about that. And if you support the idea, you can post in the chat so that we begin to plan. I also want to request us to register in the chat, put your name and your mobile money number for data refund. Please put your name and your mobile money number for data refund in the chat and make sure that your number has a code. Only those who are able to do that will be able to receive the data refund. Well, that has been a little bit of housekeeping. I once again welcome you for this meeting. Let's be inspired, let's be energized, let's be renewed so that together we can transform our mindsets and we can work together for a better region and continent. Thank you so much, dear moderator.
Thank you very much, Brian. You can appreciate Brian through the reaction and any other speaker through the reactions icon there, or you can unmute your picture and just clap. So thank you so much, Brian. Also to say that Brian will also be attending the WCC Assembly as a delegate from the Church of Uganda representing young people. I'm saying this so that you can begin utilizing those opportunities to give your ideas, your views, that which would like them to be aired in that very big meeting that will take place next year. Thank you very much, Brian. Now we reach to the core of our today's meeting. And as Brian said, we are looking at two topics. We are looking at how to respond to violence and also identifying the red flags. So how do we respond to gender-based violence in relationships? Our speaker this evening or this afternoon is Dr. Dorcas Chebet Juma. Dr. Juma is a senior lecturer in the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies at Pwani University here in Kenya, and the head of the Christian option in the same university. She holds a bachelor's degree in theology from St. Paul's University, a master's degree in theology from Protestant University, Protestant University in the Netherlands, and a PhD in Old Testament from Stellenbosch University in South Africa. Her publications include and are not limited to Encountering the Male and Female Voice in the Song of Songs, and Reading the Song for the Dignity of Human Sexuality. The Song of Songs, a commentary in the African Bible Commentary, Eros in Africa, an African woman's contextual approach to the Song of Songs. In the African Bible Commentary, her research interests revolve around the dignity of human sexuality, women in religion and culture, contextual approach to biblical interpretation, gender, health, and theology, women in religion and culture in the Old Testament perspectives. Friends, join together in welcoming Dr. Dorcas Chebet Juma, who is our speaker now. Please appreciate her, the reactions on the chat. Thank you so much. Karibu Dorcas.
Thank you so much, Pauline. The last time we were together was in Butere, somewhere there, when I presented a paper in which you really laughed. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And yes, let me exit full screen and begin straight away. Actually, the main question is, love matters. Or maybe we should start by saying, does love matter? And my approach to how to respond on abusive relationship will be from the context of the Song of Songs and effective ways of responding to abuse in relationship. And so my topic is, does love matter? The Song of Songs and effective ways of responding to abuse in relationship. It is important to begin by saying abuse and even homicide in relationships continues to be a daily reality across Kenya and East Africa. Some perpetrators are politicians, men in uniform, close relatives, or teenagers. Thus, the cases are suppressed or settled locally. While abuse can sometimes be a life-altering event with a lasting impact, many victims continue to persevere in the name of love. In fact, the concept love itself is problematic. In the contemporary African society, when a young man or an old man wants to have sex with a young girl, he will say, "I love you." In the name of love, many young girls submit to the pressure of sexual desires, eventually becoming victims of abuse in relationships. While abuse has been a daily reality, especially in institutions of higher learning, strategies put to curb the spread of COVID-19, especially in Kenya, highly escalated sexual abuse. The aim of this paper is to put the female voice in the Song of Songs in dialogue with the voice of Tamar in 2 Samuel chapter 13. This way, it will be possible to rethink the concept of love from the perspective of health and healing for victims of abuse. The guiding questions are, number one, is it possible to call to action prevention, mitigation, and response measures on protection from abuse? Number two, does love matter? From the context of sex dignity talk and an African women's hermeneutical lens to the Song of Songs and 2 Samuel chapter 13, it is proposed that young women and girls should be sensitized and empowered on how to respond and possibly be protected in case they find themselves in abusive relationships, similar to that of Tamar in 2 Samuel chapter 13, and the female voice in the Song of Songs, chapter 5, verse 7. 2, there is need for a blended legal and religious structural system that responds to abusive relationships. 3, steering conversations on sex dignity talk in the private and public sphere can create a conducive environment that allows for the love of young lovers to flourish as they enjoy life in its fullness, as in John chapter 10, verse 10, as equally created in the image and likeness of God, as in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. While it is a taboo to speak about sex in Africa, the Old Testament seems to present love and human sexuality as a mysterious, distant matter, even though love is divine and a sacred phenomenon. If love and sex are spoken about in the Old Testament, it is in the coded language. It is in a coded language when a man knows his wife and she conceives, as in Genesis chapter 4, verse 1 to 2, verse 1. 2, when young Israelite warriors are being instructed to take revenge on the neighboring nations by taking virgins for their sexual pleasure, killing women who have known men, or in other words, have had sex. When women seem to be accused of using their sexuality to lay a trap for young, innocent, and God-fearing men, like in the case of Potiphar's wife and Joseph, Potiphar's wife and Joseph in Genesis chapter 39, and that of Samson and Delilah in Judges chapter 16, or when one encounters the rape of innocent young girls, as in Genesis chapter 34, the rape of Dinah, and 2 Samuel chapter 13, the rape of Tamar. This can easily be understood as a presentation of women as passive recipients of matters love, objects of sexual desire, or sources of irresistible temptation, while young men are socialized to believe that it is a norm and manhood to be aggressive to women. Such socializations continue to make it very difficult for young men in love to accept no for an answer on matters love and sex. In fact, in most cases, when a young woman says no to a man's sexual advances, she is believed to have accepted. There is a common phrase on Kenyan social media platform known as kukula fare, literally eating transport. Because of the concept kukula fare, Kenya has witnessed increased cases of gender-based violence, and in extreme cases, murder. When a woman fails to come because they have been given fare, some young men have traveled long distances and killed girls because they did not pay for the fare through sex. Taboos on matters sex even continue to make it difficult to steer conversations on matters love and sex in African contexts. Besides being a breeding ground for abusive relationships, muted voices on matters sex and love continue to send mixed signals on matters love. When a young man or woman is in love, for example, he or she is supposed to act in a manner that suggests that he or she is in love. In fact, in the African society, it is a man who initiates love and sexual encounters. A woman in love is supposed to suppress her feelings. Even married couples in holy matrimony will have to switch off their lights, hide in the blankets, and close their eyes before they do the work of the Lord. Notably, human sexuality is a blessing from God, while a woman's sexuality is the crown of God's creation. When God saw the beauty of a woman's sexuality, God exclaimed, "Very good," in Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. When a woman was brought to Adam, the beauty of a woman's sexuality and love, a body surrounded with mountains, like the city of Jerusalem, as in Psalms 125, so that when a woman is in a distance, you will know if she is coming or going just by looking at the packaging of her body, that he was so amazed and described a woman's sexuality with a poem. Adam says, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman." Genesis chapter 2, verse 23. The beauty of a woman's sexuality perfected with Mount Horeb on the left-hand side and Mount Zion on the right-hand side, and the additional documents in the behind, leaves one mesmerized at the wisdom of God on matters love and human sexuality. In the wisdom of Al Ghul, son of Jachin, an inspired utterance in Proverbs chapter 30, verse 18 to 19, there are 3 things that are too amazing for him, 4 that he does not understand. 1, the way of a man with a young woman in love. Adam and Eve were naked and not ashamed. Seeing this, one wonders why matters love and human sexuality continues to be handled with muted voices, yet continues to be the fertile ground for abuse, causing pain and suffering to young men and women in love. I am a pastor's wife, and not a single moment have I heard the servant of God say to me, "Let us pray before we partake the Holy Communion." The great puzzle remaining, does love matter? If so, how can lovers differentiate between love and sexual desire? Suppose it was not love, but in the name of love at first sight, one is already in an abusive relationship. What next? The Song of Songs in dialogue with the voice of Tamar in 2 Samuel chapter 13. In the very opening words of the song of Song 1 verse 2, one encounters the voice of a woman who is not just deeply in love, but to whom matters love matter to her. Thus, she initiates the romantic encounters referred to by some scholars as the flames of fire. In the Song of Songs, the female voice commands her beloved to pull her out of the chambers of the king so that they can go and enjoy the beauty of their true love. Notably, love in the Song of Songs matters since the love is reciprocal. When the young lover is told to pull the female voice out of the chambers of the king, who seems to have put her there by force, he responds, and we see them in the mountains, in the hills, enjoying love. While the female voice initiates love in the song, Song of Songs chapter 1, her male counterpart responds by pulling her from the chambers of the king. You encounter the two in the mountains, in the vineyards, asking onlookers to catch for them the little foxes that spoil the vineyards that are in blossom, in the hills and valleys. Unlike in the Song of Songs, where the romantic encounters are laid on the foundation of genuine love, in 2 Samuel chapter 13, it is passion in the name of love. In 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1 to 2, we are told that Absalom, the son of David, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. Amnon, it is written, loved Tamar. He was so obsessed with Tamar that he became lovesick for his sister. Notably, we do not know why we are immediately notified that Tamar was a virgin. However, it is possible to see that the scheme was hatched and Tamar was eventually raped. In the Song of Songs, the female voice is enjoying the beauty of human sexuality, joyfully giving love and receiving love. In the Song of Songs, love conquers death, Song of Songs chapter 8. In 2 Samuel chapter 13, love becomes a source of death. Tamar's dreams are shattered. Her esteem is lowered. Her future becomes uncertain and she becomes desolate. Even so, in 2 Samuel chapter 13, one encounters the voice of a strong, wise, and resilient woman who uses 2 strategies to try and respond to abuse in order to protect her sexual dignity from being taken away. Firstly, she uses the power of her voice to plead with Amnon not to disgrace her. In a resistant voice, we hear her scream, "No, my brother, Don't force me. Don't do this wicked thing. Her resistant voice, her response gives her the opportunity to try dialogue as a mode of calling the attention of Amnon to the dignity of her sexuality as a woman. She says, "What about me? Where can I get rid of my disgrace?" When she sees that Amnon cares less about the dignity of a woman's sexuality, she takes her effort of response a notch higher with a second strategy by trying to bring the attention of Amnon to the dignity of his own sexuality as a man, a brother, and a child of royalty. She uses a negotiating strategy by appealing to the blood relationship and the royal position of Amnon in King David's family. Amnon, from the Hebrew word Amnon, literally translates as faithful. He was born in Sika in 1000 BCE. He was the oldest son of King David and his second wife, Ahinoam of Jezreel. Amnon was born in Hebron during David's reign in Judah. In these stages of the united monarchy, the leadership of Israel was hereditary. Thus, Amnon was the apparent heir to the throne of Israel. Because Tamar was an insider, one would possibly argue that she is fully aware of this information and therefore uses it to respond by bargaining to restore her dignity. She says to Amnon, "And what about you?" She reminds Amnon that there is nothing as disgraceful in Israel as going down into records as one of the fools of Israel. Not just an ordinary fool, it is more serious if the fool is so foolish on matters love and human sexuality, and more so from the royal family and a potential heir to the throne who does not even know that he has the power as an apparent heir to the throne to ask anything from the king and it will be given to him. We see this in verse 13 when Tamar says to Amnon, "Now therefore, I beg you, speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." A foolish man in Israel is one who is harsh, hard-headed, cruel, and stubborn, and does not listen. A foolish man in Israel is stiff-necked and evil in his doings. He pays evil for good and does not walk in the ways of the Lord. He usually dies a sudden death. Is this the kind of man Tamar was bringing the attention of Amnon to? This is a very strong response to abuse. Though it is not immediately clear from the text, however, in the story, it is possible to see that Tamar's voice, a strong tool of response to abuse, stands strong in the context in which women and girls are seen as objects of sexual desire and passive recipients of abusive relationship. The scene of the incident of Tamar's rape is set within the confinement of a house of royalty, where it is expected that Tamar, being Amnon's sister, is also a royal daughter. Thus, she deserves to be treated as a child of royalty, just like Amnon. The setting of the house of royalty is supposed to provide protection to a daughter of royalty, love to a daughter of royalty, a place for Tamar to be treated with dignity and her virginity upheld. Unfortunately, the confinement becomes the best setting for her sexuality to be disgraced and for her to be abused, to be denied even the opportunity to love again. Even so, the power of her voice, her strategy of response against Amnon's action creates a conversational platform for steering conversations on sexual dignity talk. In the theology of women's sexuality, the voice of Tamar breaks traditional barriers that prevent women from responding and resisting abusive relationships. In this regard, it is here important to imagine and ask ourselves, does love matter? And so, can the female voice in the Song of Songs, in dialogue with Tamar's voice in 2 Samuel, offer opportunities to respond to abusive relationships? In order to know how to respond to abusive relationships, it is important to underscore some of the types of abuse in relationship. The list is based on Rich Team, a campaign dubbed Beyond Domestic Violence. Some of the abusive issues include physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, mental or psychological, financial or economic, cultural or identity abuse. Having known that, how does abuse start? To understand how abuse starts, we analyze what I refer here to as the cat theology. For those who have kept cats as pets, you will realize that when you come in the evening after you have gone out, the cat starts by touching you with the tail. When you don't respond, the cat extends the feet. When you don't respond, the cat removes in Swahili you call them makucha, and the cat becomes aggressive. That is how abuse starts. An abuser will start by raising a voice, and then they raise a hand. And when you continue to keep quiet, you will be slapped and eventually hit. Every abuse is unique and therefore requires unique responses, depending on the context and time. Most importantly, abuse is progressive, starting from a simple shout, raising of a hand in an attempt to slap, and eventually ends up to blow and even murder. Some abusers use rewards to make their victims indebted to them. Others use intimidation, control, and domineering in order to scare their victims from seeking help. Others prevent their victims from socializing with the people lest they disclose their plight, while others treat friends and relatives of the victim well so that when the victim complains, it sounds strange. Others adopt a multiple personality so that they can abuse and play the victim or the rescuers. Abused, so at the end of the day, the abused ends up sympathizing with the abuser instead of seeking help. In the public space, the victims will be treated by the abusers with respect, so that when the victim complains, people will be wondering about what the victim is talking about. Signs that show that one is abused, they include but not limited to, in most cases, but not all, victims of abuse tend to have a low self-esteem, withdraw with a sudden change of appearance. Someone who was very cautious about how they dress and look suddenly neglects themselves, speak very well about their abusers, and are even protective about the image, the public image of their abusers. So what are some of the effective ways of response? As I had said, response varies depending on the context the victim of abuse is in. If a victim is physically close to the perpetrator, it is very important to allow him or her feel that he or she has already overpowered you until you find a safe space to seek help. Of course, some perpetrators of abuse do not act on provocation. Thus, before taking any move, it is important to study the perpetrator very carefully in order to familiarize yourself with the most powerful tool of disempowering the perpetrator so that you can seek help or find a safe space. Remind yourself that it is not your fault and that it is okay not to be okay, and consider your option for walking away before the abuser socializes you to be totally attached to him and dependent on him or her. The do's: seek counseling with a relationship therapist, either together or separately. Surround yourself with a support system of family and friends who can validate your experiences. Discuss with them what is happening and how you are feeling. Communicate with your abusers about their hurtful words. Discuss that this behavior is unacceptable to you. Resist by always showing that you are hurting and that you don't like the way you are being treated. Leave the relationship while you are still alive. If you make this decision, then it will be very possible for you to have time to evaluate the damage that the abuse has caused you. Seek out safe spaces wherever possible. The don'ts. Don't engage in conflict with your abuser. If your abuser becomes angry, stay calm, walk away, and don't give them a reaction. Don't give them a reason to blame you for the worst relationship. Don't blame yourself for someone else's behavior. Don't apologize for a mistake you have not committed unless if your life is in danger and you want to use it to negotiate for your safety. Don't cry at the provocation of your abuser, especially in front of them, unless you are using your tears to negotiate for your safety. Don't stay in a relationship with someone who is hurting you. Don't tell yourself that you don't deserve to be treated better. Don't ignore your thoughts, feelings, and instincts. If it hurts, say it hurts. This is work in progress. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Please appreciate Dr. Njuma. That was wonderful. Reading of the Song of Song, and the relationship between that Ralph in Song of Song and the Ralph in 1 Samuel chapter 13, one leading to death, the other one leading to enjoyment. And we are here as game changers, really, to say that we want to affirm love that leads to enjoyment. We want to affirm love that leads to affirmation of life, and detest from love that leads to death or to violence. Thank you so much, Dr. Chebet. I will allow you to interact with Dr. Chebet for barely 10 minutes, either through chat or you can raise your hand in case we can see it. We will give you the chance to ask or comment. Yes, 10 minutes begins now. We have Keroy Hope, Priscilla, unmute and ask or make your comments, please. Can you unmute? Priscilla? No. Any other hand that you can see, Brian? Any other comments? While Priscilla tries to unmute. No. Do we have chats?
Ambrose.
Comments on the chat?
Ambrose's hand is up.
All right.
Ambrose, unmute and make your comments.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to thank the facilitator, the presenter who has just gone off of the call. But my question, this is a question which goes to her. Is there room for us to transform the abusers? Because it seems most of the abusers are men or the agents. How can our young sisters, how can our ladies use that as an opportunity to transform the abusers? Is there room, first of all? Yes, if it's there, how do you use that room for transforming the male abusers? Thank you.
Wow, I'll ask you the same question, Ambrose, before Dorcas answers, because I am not getting it. How do you transform the person who is killing you? The person who has traveled from Nairobi to Western Kenya with a rungu just to kill you. How do you transform that person? I don't know.
An axe, actually, shocker.
Do you have some ideas, Ambrose?
Like for someone who has traveled from Nairobi or to Western Kenya to kill you or to attack you, you can transform by simply evading the place you live.
Doing what?
You evacuate yourself, or you escape, or you leave.
Did he call to say he was coming to murder you?
Yeah, if I have a notification that someone's coming to murder me, I simply escape. I leave.
Okay, bros, we hear your point, but I think the bottom line is that one thing that we have continued to say in this struggle for gender justice is that abusers are people who are known to us. In the context of Love Matters, abusers are people we have intimate relationship with, and therefore they are the people you are least expecting that they can harm you. You are almost always caught off guard completely. When Tama goes to bake bread for her brother, it is her brother. She cannot imagine her brother can rust over her. She cannot imagine her brother can rape her. Even when she negotiates and says such a thing has never happened in Israel, she does not expect that it can actually happen. Wow. I don't know, Dorcas, whether you want to respond to that.
Can I respond?
Okay.
This is Peter.
Yes, please go ahead and respond, please.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say, these abuses, if we put in the scenario to now, it seems the people who are now doing abuses is the gentlemen, those who are now giving something to the vulnerable people. Let's say to the young people, young ladies, those who are now promised and they don't keep the promise. To my understanding, what I can advise, because this is the world of today has really changed a lot of things, the life of the society. If we are people of God and we see how to bring this problem to an end, we have to sit down and then we think. We think outside the box, and what we cannot do, we can't promise. Because these people who are now coming to kill you, these are the people you are promising them. And by the end of the day, if you are just drafting them away, you're drafting the interest, you're drafting the resources, and then you have not answered to them, what will come at the end? It will come to the bad news. Somebody can come and kill you, somebody can come and beat you. My understanding to all those people, to all of us young people, we have to sit down and we see how we can respond. If somebody wants to do something to you, you have to sit down and then you think. If you are a young lady and this man wants to grab you with the money he has, think twice and you know. You are a young lady with the brain. You can even tell him, I don't want to involve in this matter of love. Let me just leave me alone and leave and go and do the other things somewhere. If we do things like that, the person cannot say. But if I agree, I use your resources, use all these things. Like these people, one example, like this person who has been killed in Kenyatta University in Gayport at the peak. This person was really giving money to pay the school fees of the young lady, and the young lady bring another person in, and they were in relation with that person, and he's trying to drag this man away, and he has already using the energy for the other man. So that one, it will really bring a problem to our society. If we are people, we have a problem, we can go where we can even be solving, where we can even be getting the help from the society so that we cannot mess ourselves. So the blaming is come to all of us as the young people. What can we do as the young people? Because we are the one who are doing a lot of bad things to ourselves. Now, what can we do to our society? That's the question we should ask. What can we do to ourselves so that we cannot mess, so that we cannot kill others, so that we cannot kill our brothers and our sisters? To me, yes, we have to go to the church so that we can learn the truth and the matters that can set you free. That's what I can say.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Baraj. Over to you, Dr. Dorcas, to react briefly to that before I give you another set of questions.
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. It reminds me of the time we were with Dr. Pauline in Butere down there, where I spoke about the Vumilia theology and the way especially women and girls continue to be nailed on the cross as though they are the messiahs who are supposed to save perpetrators of violence, to change them. And I always tell women, get out of the cross. There was only one Messiah, and that was Jesus Christ. It is difficult to change a perpetrator of violence. Most of them have mastered the art of abuse so well that it becomes difficult for one to realize that they are actually being abused. And in most cases, especially Christianity, socializes young women and girls to believe that they have the power to change perpetrators with their love, to change perpetrators with good deeds, to change perpetrators by trying to impress them. And in the process, the victims of abuse grow weary and they start neglecting themselves. They become defeated and eventually become desolate, the way Tamar was left desolate. My brother who said that it is possible to know or to run away, imagine the abuse, as Dr. Paulina said, that happens in the house of royalty, where even the king himself does not even intervene. I don't know if King David was so stupid, or maybe because he was a man, he could not even ask himself. This young boy was just well and healthy. What has made him so sick? And why is he insisting that Tamar is the one who must cook for him, and yet there were servants in the house of royalty? After all, Tamar was also a child of royalty, and she deserved to sit down, relax, and wait for the servants to cook. Can you imagine the way David is presented as a passive, stupid father who could not even realize that there must be something wrong with this sickness? So what am I trying to say? Let us not put more pressure on victims of abuse to continue trying to change the perpetrators. Instead, let us change the narrative. It is only Christ who has the power to change people, to save people. There is a slogan I started using myself. I prayed for somebody for quite some time, and I told God that I usually hear that when a sinner gets saved, it is the heavens that rejoices. If a sinner does not get saved, it is the heaven that loses. So I said this to God: if this person does not change, that is not my problem. It is your problem. Deal with your person. As for me, I want to look after myself.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Dokas. Still together? Dr. Dokas?
Yes?
Yes, thank you. You had hung. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have finished.
Okay, thank you so much.
Unless you say something else, yes.
So in the remaining 8 minutes, I want to ask, Emmanuel had a hand up, unless his question has been answered. But there are some questions on, yes, Emmanuel, your comment in 1 minute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Ray, for your presentation. It was extremely informative. My takeaway, however, was how abuse is actually very unique, and therefore it requires very different responses in terms of the instances that it can show up. And especially in terms of the cut theology of how these certain abuses can start as very small things that maybe you might not be able to see them as very serious in the beginning, but then they blow out of proportion as time goes by. So I think it's very important that you had highlighted that young people should be able to especially not ignore their feelings, to make how they feel known to their partners who may be abusive, and maybe even seek help, counseling, and support systems from those around them. However, also I think that as young people, we should also be empowered, our girls and boys alike, to be able to be ourselves, to be able to have confidence in who we are as individuals, and not be able to allow external factors to put us down when it comes to relationships, when it comes to family matters, so that we be able to stand our ground and make our opinions known. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Emma. Dr. Dorcas, can I read for you the few questions on the chat so that you handle them at once?
Yes, yes.
Okay. There are quite a lot of comments appreciating your presentation. And then the first question is, how do you navigate when the family of the abused doesn't offer support? That's one. Two, if there anything that the victim does, is there anything that the victim does that attracts love abuse? Or is it always the abuser who is wrong? For example, things to do with sexual behavior, attraction, for instance. Then the other question is, maybe this goes to the whole group. What can we learn from the Tama campaign? I'll throw that to everyone. I mean, what can we learn from the story of Tama? That's another question to the group. I'm throwing it to everyone, but if you desire so, Doctor, you can also comment. But what we learn from the story of Tama? 4, how do we help the youth break the phrase love is blind? How do we help the youth break the phrase that love is blind? Yes, up to there, Dr.
Thank you very much. Maybe let me just go through them quickly so that I can also offer others the opportunity to respond if they have something. Let me just go randomly. There is a question, how do you break the phrase love is blind? Love is not blind. It is us who, when we find ourselves in an abusive relationship, we convince ourselves that love is blind and therefore use the term to survive and persevere in abusive relationship. So that when you are told or when you realize that things are not working, you want to convince yourself that you are staying in that abusive relationship because love is blind, or maybe love at first sight, or maybe this is a person who broke my virginity and such like things. So it's not necessarily that the love is blind, but it is a social construct that has been coined to socialize victims of abuse to persevere in abusive relationship. What can we learn from the story of Tamar? Like one of us has pointed, and I'm really blessed about it, the cat theology. Tamar was able to see abuse and deal with it as it came. So Tamar's story offers a platform for conversations on resisting and responding as the abuse goes on, so that you do not suffer in silence. Don't suffer in silence. That is a very strong message from Tamar's story. Even if you will not be heard, speak anyway. Even if the abuser will not leave you alone or will continue to abuse you, let him know that what he is doing is not right. How do you navigate the family of, when the family is also abusing you? I have gone through that a lot, where family members gang up literally, and it becomes very serious. I hope I have a few minutes. I share a 2 minutes experience. One time my father-in-law died, and when we were preparing to bury him, I am a Sabaot and the people are married to our lawyers, and the family members rose against me that I had not brought certain things in a certain traditional way. And I was accused that if I don't do what I was being told to do, that I will bring a curse to the family. And a number of ladies stood up and they wanted to beat me. And I looked at one of them and I told him, while these others will be beating me, between me and you, one of us is going to die. I am sure, and I am sure that it is not me. So come. Between me and you, one of us is going to die, but I am 100% sure that I am not the one who is going to die. And when I said that, everybody started to walk away. So when, that is one way. Do not suffer in silence just because the family members have ganged up on you. Resist, resist, resist. Reclaim your identity from the word go. When they rise against you, stand up for yourself. Don't wait for your husband to defend you, because at the end of the day, they are relatives. That is their blood. At the end of the day, you are the one who is a stranger in that family. At the end of the day, blood is thicker than water. You will be left alone. Resist, resist, resist. And if possible, if you see that the home environment will continue to contribute to your abuse, it is very important to stay away and find a home. You see, talk with your partner, spouse. If the abuse is coming from the relatives, talk to your spouse to see the importance of you even buying land out of the ancestral land. Is it the fact or the fault of a victim when you are suffering? Never, never. An abuser is an abuser. So that is also another social construction. And that is why we see a lot of, especially women, going to extreme measures, trying to please the abuser. For example, going for plastic surgery, using cosmetics to transform your skin because we think maybe you are not beautiful enough. Have you never realized, did you know, as I conclude, that sometimes your beauty, your extreme beauty can be a source of your abuse, because somebody is insecure and therefore wants to make you feel bad about yourself, so that because he's afraid that somebody may take you. So don't feel like maybe you are ugly. Don't feel like maybe you are not giving them enough sex. This is the joke I always use. If somebody is not satisfied with the sexual encounters that you are giving, even if you start from the sitting room on the table and finish in the bedroom under the bed, he will still abuse you and accuse you of not satisfying him sexually. So never ever blame yourself when you are being abused, thinking that you are the one contributing for the abuse. Maybe you have not cooked well, you are not dressing well, you are not doing this well. Just look after yourself. If you cook food, cook for yourself, not for the other person. You are doing something not for him, but for both of you. So never ever blame yourself when you are being abused. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chebet. Thank you so much for that very insightful conversation. I think that can constitute that discussion can constitute a whole Love Matters forum, because it is quite loaded. I would like to say that my punchline on that is that do not blame yourself. The other thing is that it is not about what you do or what you do not do that causes the abuser to abuse. I hope you heard me. It is not about what you do or what you do not do. The person plans. From the story of Tamar, Amnon planned, invited his cousin to help him plan, and executed the plan. It was not about what Tamar did or did not do. It was not about who she was or who she was not. It was about the man who planned the rape and executed it, and the accomplishments that he had. The other thing that young people, we are full of power, we are full of strength, we are full of enthusiasm. We actually come to relationships thinking that we shall make this relationship work in the way that we feel best we can do it. I want to say that in a relationship, love matter in that matter, for that matter, is a relationship of two people. Two people must be deliberate to work out for it. It cannot be a relationship of two people where only one person must work for it and that one person can make it work. One person cannot make it work. The two people must make it work. What am I saying? I'm saying that don't be in a relationship where things are going wrong and you keep telling yourself, I am strong anyway, I will do it. Sometimes we are taught like that as women, that the woman is the one who makes the home the way it should be, and it is a lie. It is a lie. You cannot make the other person the way he will be or he should be. Each person has a responsibility of making themselves and bringing something into the relationship, something to make the relationship grow and thrive. So it is not about what you do or what you do not do. If a relationship is going sour, you cannot imagine yourself that you are going to have the powers to change that relationship all by yourself. It is not possible. Do not kill yourself, because these are imaginations which might not work. The reality is a relationship is like a living being. Love is like something which is alive, which must be kept alive by two people who have decided and determined, put their efforts, resources, emotional, spiritual, financial, social energy towards making that relationship work. If one person goes to sleep, the other one cannot work on it alone. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Again, Dr. Chebet, please appreciate Dr. Chebet on the chat and on the reactions, and we continue to engage on that matter. We are not saying, we are not blaming anyone. We are just saying that a relationship is made up by two people committed and willing to work it out. Now we go to our next presentation. Having heard about the issues of abuse, how do we know? How do we identify red flags? How do you know I am headed the wrong direction? At what point do you run for your life, or do you keep going? We are going to welcome our next facilitator, who we have had before, and are privileged to have her again. For those joining us for the first time, and for those returning, let me remind you that Shireen Waiganjo is originally from South Africa. She has lived in Kenya since 2001. She studied accounting at the University of Pretoria and management at the University of South Africa. She started her career with Makade Online and developed a significant skill set in the creation of online e-commerce marketplaces in both the business to consumer and business to business arenas. She served on numerous boards in the public relations industry, as well as assisting organizations to define their market entry strategies into various African countries. She has got over 20 years experience in the management positions in the information, communication, and technology sector. She changed her career after the 2013 Westgate terrorist attack in Nairobi, Kenya. The Westgate experience was a turning point in her life. After struggling to overcome the effects of the CPTSD, she changed her career and dedicated her life to helping others understand the empowerment that comes from preventative mental health care. Today, she's a certified life coach, director and facilitator of Al Ghul Institute, whose primary focus is centered around developing soft skills and increasing individual and collective resilience. Al Ghul offers workshops in leadership, stress management, self-building, and trauma healing. She's also the current chair of the SAWA and Friends, the South African Women's Association in Kenya, and a founding member of the KENSA, the Kenya South African Business Network. Please welcome Madam Shireen Waiganjo to speak to us this afternoon. Karibu sana. And also tell us what CPTSD is. It just ran out of my mind.
Thank you, Reverend Pauline. Thank you for the warm welcome. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be back with you. I've missed you. I hope your lives have been well since we last met. Thank you, Dr. Dorcas, for your very insightful presentation. I think we all learned quite a lot from it. Reverend, CPTSD stands for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. I hope you will remember it now. I think
Yes,
the
yes,
most
thank you.
the most common one is PTSD, but then you get one that's worse. It is complex, meaning that you have had more than one significant life-threatening experience. So thank you for having me today. My part is to talk about red flags in relationships. And I thought it best to put things a little bit in context from our Albanian perspective on relationships. Where does the part of relationships reside, right? So I want to draw your attention to us as human beings, first and foremost. And to make a little illustration for you that we are three-part beings. We are not just Jane or Francis in the body. We actually have three parts. One part that we can see is the body, right? The second part is our soul, where our mind, our will, and our emotions reside. And the third part is our spirit. Now, to sum it up, and I hope you can see this diagram in your mind, man is a spirit being who has a soul and resides in a body. So what is it about the spirit? And I want us to focus specifically today in my session on the spirit. Our spirit part is the part where our relationships originate from. Our relationship with God, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with others. It is also the part of our being where our sexuality resides. And this is the reason why we always, or most of the time, confuse relationships with sex. A lot of people think that in order for me, especially with romantic relationships, a lot of people think that the measure of a successful or a good romantic relationship corresponds with the sexual action, and this is simply not true. What is our spirit? If we here in a Christian forum say that we are Christians, we believe in the Abrahamic God, that is already one part of our operating system, okay? So our spirit is our operating system. To make it even more easier for you to understand this analogy, I want you to think of your mobile phone, okay? Our mobile phone is our spirit. And in the world today, we get two types. We get Apple phones. Who of you are on Apple phones? Many of you? Many of you have, Reverend is an Apple, huh? I am on a Samsung phone. And I think if we have a conversation on which one is better, Reverend, I think we will be here a whole day. Huh? So this is the thing. We all have our operating system. And it is very important to understand and to know what is your operating system. My Samsung phone does not work the same as Reverend's Apple phone. Our directories are different. How we save numbers are different. How we access our Facebook is different. And this is the same thing in relationship, guys. It is very important to know what is your operating system. What is it that is that thing inside you that guides your decisions? This is how we're going to identify red flags. Because if I am not compatible with Reverend's Apple phone, there is a red flag that needs to go off, that should tell me the way you are navigating now is not the same as what we know. And this is when a red flag goes off. And I think if I put it that way, you can all think about scenarios in whichever relationships with your parents, relationship with your friends, relationships with colleagues, relationships with those young people who you may mentor. It is very important that first and foremost, we know who we are. We must know who we are, because if you are not comfortable with yourself, if you do not know yourself, how are you going to have any successful or happy relationship with anybody else? Can we think a little bit about that question? If you are not happy with yourself, if you are not comfortable being alone with yourself, who are you to yourself as a friend, as a partner, as a helper, as a fellow believer? Are you comfortable with that picture that you are finding? Are you doing some inspection? Do some inspection. Are you comfortable? If you are not comfortable, then those are the areas that you need to start working on, guys. Because what happens when we get into romantic relationships? And I think this session, most of you want to know more about the romantic relationships, right? Here's the thing. As women, we always think that we will change the men. Is that so? Please respond, even if you type on the chat. I want this to be interactive so that I can know that you are following me, because we are here to learn. As women enter into a relationship thinking, we will change this one. We will change how he behaves. We will change how he talks. We will change how we interact, right? That is our operating modus operandi. But what do the men do? The men think, this one is going to stay the way they are. They will not change. So the men think the women will never change, because let's be honest, ladies, when we are dating someone, we are putting the best foot forward. We are always making the tea. We are making the food. We are treating them very nicely. And that is what we make the men used to. Yet, when I do marriage counseling and the men start opening up, they are like, I don't feel appreciated. She used to do this. She used to do that. Now I can't even get a cup of tea. I can't even get a cup of water. So the men go into relationships thinking the women will never change. The women go into relationships thinking, we are going to change the man. This is one of the biggest red flags that you can ever have in a relationship. If you are in a romantic relationship right now and you think like this, let it be a red flag. I urge you, my brother, my sister, look closely at the issue that it is that you feel you want to change, or you think you will change, or you think you will never change. This is very important. The second thing we need to look at when we are trying to understand red flags, we need to understand within ourselves, why is it that we are going into romantic relationships? What is the thing that is driving us to do this? Is it because we have an overwhelming feeling of loneliness, that we think somebody else is going to bring happiness to our life? Is it because there is pressure from our grandparents or our parents that now it is time for you to get married? You need to, you better get on with the program. You are 23 years old and you are late in the game. Is it because you are looking around and you are seeing your friends all are in relationships? Whether they are happy or not remains to be seen. What is it that is driving you? What is it that is putting pressure on you, if I can explain it like that, to have relationships? Because if we are operating from a point where there is pressure, there's an external pressure. It might, ladies, if it is ladies, it might be your time clock. You think, I need to have those babies. Well, here is a big news flash. Guys, girls, there is no manual that says by this age, you have to be married, you have to have so many children, and so on and so forth. Yes, I say this with utmost regard to culture, because I am aware that in some cultures these are expected, certain things are expected. But again, what is your operating system? Is your operating system that which the Bible says? Is your operating system that which culture says? What is your operating system? It's very critical to understand this, because whatever your operating system is also going to be your center, is going to be your source of strength and courage when we are facing all these challenges when it comes to relationships, all these external pressures. If we are not sure of who we are and how we are, it's so easy for somebody to come and whisper in our ear and we lose balance, let alone physical people. We are all fighting a daily battle with the devil, right? If we believe in God, best be assured that the devil is also out, and he comes like a lion in the night to devour and to kill and to steal. And this is what he's trying to steal, our happiness in relationships, because God has designed us all to have wholesome, good relationships. But unfortunately, sometimes in life, it doesn't work out. And I want us to understand just a little bit of why this happened and where the holes are. So in my career, in working with relationships, working with young couples before they get married, working even with married couples, people in their 60s, 70s years of age. Imagine that even at those ages, people are having problems. There is a few things that always stands out to me. And this is why it is so important for me, for you to understand the three-part being of man, because this is holistic. We cannot just fix this thing and hope that everything else will work. Everything is integrated. We've learned that the spirit is our operating system, and it is influenced and guided by our spiritual nourishment, whether it is the Bible, whether it is the Torah, whether it is the Holy Quran. These are the messages of God, the morals, the values that God instills in us, right? But let's look at the other two: our soul, where our mind, will, and emotions reside, and our body. There's two things that always come up when I work with couples that have problems in their relationships. The first thing that they say is, I do not trust him, I do not trust her. Have you heard that? Do you hear that? Do you even feel that in your relationships? That you don't trust? It can be that you don't trust the other person. I want to bring it back home. Do you trust yourself? When your buddies call you, we want to go out. Do you trust yourself when you're going out that you're going to be faithful? You're going to say, but I'm not married yet. I can look at the menu and order and eat off the menu. You know that thing? Trust. Trust is a very, very important thing. And trust resides here in our mind, how we think, you know, and it is that little devil that is always whispering. It is coming to corrupt your operating system. It is telling you, you know, we can go out, we can see how many chicks we can pull tonight, you know, it's okay, nobody will know. And the guys, you guys get away with it. But us girls, it's not so easy. It's not so easy when we also want to go and enjoy the hang and have a good time, because sometimes our consequences of our actions are more visible than it is for the men. How do we overcome this issue? How do we overcome this issue of trust? It begins with ourselves. It begins with ourselves. What is my operating system? I must become the change I want to see in my community. If I want to have and long for a happy, successful marriage, how I behave today when I'm still dating is critical. It informs my actions. If your operating system is not strong, and if it's easily corruptible or easily influenced by external factors, I think the solution is for you to end all your romantic relationships and first build your spirit, first build your operating system so that you can be sure and you know, build integrity so that you become a trustworthy person for yourself and to others. So trust is a very, very, very serious thing. What happens in the body when we are in relationships? Yeah, I see Quizeria, Jean-Pierre, you're saying build your spirit. It is critical to build your spirit. Guys, what happens in the body? This one we can all answer in unison. The body wants to do what? I always say the body wants to do humpy-pumpy. The body just wants to do humpy-pumpy. And we think, this is a good measure of relationships. So we meet somebody to Friday night at the hang, trust and believe by the time Saturday morning the sun comes up, we've already shared the most sacred and intimate thing that you will ever be able to share with someone. And I find that is very sad. In the moment, our hormones are pumping, but this is why our spirit, our operating system has to be so strong and incorruptible. Yes, those feelings come, but there is a part of us that has to say no. This might be a good indicator that I like this person a lot. It does not mean that I should jump in bed or jump in the backseat of a car. Ladies, if you are going out with somebody and your boyfriend is only interested in the physical part of your relationship, huge red light plus a siren plus a whatnot is going off. No. This is not the foundation of a healthy, happy, God-centered relationship. Boys, if that is what you are after when you go out to meet girls, you have to start taking a serious look at yourself, because I'm sure when you are ready to marry, Would you be willing to marry the girl that you know who has been with 20 guys, thinking, and she's innocent, thinking that she's looking for love, she's finding love? Because us girls also just want to be girls. If a very handsome guy comes and tell us, oh, you're so beautiful and I love you and I'm going to marry you and it's going to be so nice, and you know, and then the one thing leads to the next, and she's like, oh my goodness, I really like this guy, he's saying all the right things, and then we have a sexual encounter, and a week later the guy is gone. Guys, is this how you're operating as Christian men? Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. Fast forward 5-6 years from now, you're ready to marry, and you as a man wants to marry the untouched. I think you should get one. You should be rewarded by your actions, right? Let's be the change we want to see. You guys are going out there, you are mentoring, you're working with the youth, you are seeing these things, you are hearing how people talk. How do you start changing? By talking about these things. Let us change the way we want to be. Yes, Gladys, it is the same on both sides. Us girls also go out and we want to, what is this thing? We want to catch. If I can catch, if I can find a good catch, what better way to get pregnant, isn't it? For sure, then this person will marry me. Guys, girls, life is not about getting married. We think when we get married, why is it that we are so driven by getting married? Why is it? Is it because we think, oh, if we are girls, we think, oh, it will be the man's responsibility now to take care of us. We will have an easy life. No, 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 no. You know what? The Bible is very clear on what the roles and responsibilities are for both men and women. So when we want to enter into relationships, yes, it's God-given and it's beautiful. We need to enter with our eyes open. It's very well and good if our bodies are responding and we, you know, we really physically is very attracted to this man or this woman. It's beautiful. It means that the chemistry works, but your operating system should be the one at the end of the day that is guiding us. So this is what is happening in our mind. We want easy way out. And, you know, and we develop issues of trust, we develop issues of starting to lie to ourselves, and we start going out of the word, out of the Bible, out of the map of life, right? In the body, we want to do humpy-pumpy. And now I come to the spirit, the biggest corrupter of the spirit. Can you guys get what it is? The biggest corrupter of our spirit. I'm even saying it. The biggest corrupter of the spirit is spirits, alcohol. Alcohol. In Arabic, it is referred to as the Spirit of Al Ghul. You guys can go and read up about it. The Spirit of Al Ghul. Do you know 95% of relationship cases that I deal with, if I say, when the conflict started, where were you? Oh, we were in the bar. You looked at this one. Oh, she looked at that one. Even at home, gender-based violence. 95% of the case, alcohol is involved. Spirits are involved. See, the other name for alcohol is spirits. Why is this thing so dangerous? Because it changes, it alters our mind, it alters our thinking. It numbs or increases suppressed or suppressed emotions in us. If you or your partner, if you consume a little bit too much, and I know we think when we are young it's cool to do so, I want to challenge you and try and go about your relationships, first of all, without sex, second of all, without alcohol, and see how you like each other then. Do you even have anything to talk about? Are you able to dance to your favorite tunes without the spirit of Al Ghul? I really want you guys to try it. And you know, now it is so opportune that we're in the calendar of Advent. This is the time when everybody is having parties. This is also the time when most relationships with weak operating systems break up. Because we found somebody else at the hang, at this Christmas party, at this bar. Alcohol, big red flag. That one is even a siren with a fire truck running through your life. And you know what, guys, it's okay if you have a problem with alcohol or with drugs. We're not here to judge. It is okay. I want you to become aware of it in yourself, because you are somebody's partner. You will be somebody's partner, and somebody else cannot fix you. You need to fix yourself, right? You need to fix yourself. This is very important to understand. Nobody else can do it for you. You have to do it yourself. Because, you know, relationships are supposed to be beautiful. I remember when Waiganjo and I first met 10 years ago. By the way, I believe at that time, I will never be in a relationship again. I will never have a happy life. I will never be a mother. I'm happy to report, guys, I'm the producer of 2 Kenyans. Because God is so faithful. God is so faithful. If we are near him, he is near us. And in the first month of knowing Waiganjo, we just talked, believe it or not. Believe it or not, we just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked, and we continued to talk. My grandmother used to say that the way to anyone's bedroom, the road to anyone's bedroom should lead through the church. Can you hear that? The road to anyone's bedroom leads through the church, meaning you have to walk down the aisle. The problem today is, and this is also now you will see the operating systems, people get married. We get married, the pomp and glamour, the dress, the flowers, the hang, the party. And after 1 year, if we're lucky to make 1 year, we break up because now things became tough. Things became tough, so we get a divorce. Let me tell you guys, I want you to put that thing even out of your mind, Boys and girls, men and women, I want you to put that thing of divorce out of your mind. Yes, there are certain instances where it is permitted by God, but I want you to not enter ever into a relationship thinking that the exit strategy is easy or that it is available. The world has made it, has diluted the institute of marriage to just being, it's okay. If you want to get out, get out. you can divorce, you find another one, you have another marriage. No. As children of God, we have to follow the prescription of God and not the world. And why am I saying this? I want you to think of a time, maybe even right now, you are in a new relationship. I want you to think and remember, how were you when you first met him or her? I want you to think back when you first met him or her. How did you feel and what did you do and how did you behave? Are you thinking back to those moments? And if you are not in a relationship, don't feel bad. There is no timeline for us to have the right relationship. There is no timeline that says we must be in a relationship at this time. Ladies, there's no timeline that says you must have your babies by the time you are 23. I read the other day a woman in India, she's 65 and she had her first child. So trust and believe. There's a lot of time yet. Men can, they say men can produce babies at the age of 80. Well, men, here's news for you. Us women, we are catching up. We are catching up. We don't have to be 20 anymore to have our children. So go back to when you were dating someone, or if you are dating someone, how is your behaviors when we are in love? We are talking about love matters. When we are in love, how are we? How many times a day do we text that person? Checking in. How are you? How was your day? How was your presentation? How many times we want to communicate with that person, right? We want to communicate with that person. Every free time that you have in your diary, you want to meet up. Can we meet for coffee? Can I help you to the shop? Can I do this? Can I do that for you? Give me some of the examples of your own life. We go out of our way to accommodate the needs and the requests of the other person, isn't it? If you've just met someone and they ask you to help them with something, and you've got, like, maybe you've got 3 papers due, you have something to do at home at Shags for your mom or your shosho. Let me tell you, cancel all those other commitments just to accommodate this person that you are in love with. You start compromising. Red flag. Because these are the small little things. They might seem insignificant right now, but these are the small little things that are red flags in your relationships. Think about it. If you've been in a relationship for a long time, are you still very excited, sending a text, checking in on your partner? Or have you crossed the line now where you have stopped dating and you have started taking for granted? Do you see the difference? In the beginning, there's all this hype. We bend over backwards. We sacrifice. We want to be with this person. It's new and it is exciting. But then we get now to be in a relationship. Better yet, we get married. And now what? Men stop dating their wives and wives stop dating the men. And fast forward a year, 2 years, 3 years, now we have started eroding on the respect that we have for each other. Our operating system is out the window. Good, happy marriages take work. The easiest thing to do is to say, hands up, I'm filing for divorce. And that is why when we are still dating, we should not give in to the demands of our bodies or physical relationships. Because very soon, if we see, okay, maybe compatibility, if we remove all these other things that influences our excitement and clouds our judgment, if we remove all these things, then we see at the end of the day, our compatibilities or our operating systems are not the same. And therefore, this relationship, the chances of this relationship being successful might not be so good. Good indicator. Do you guys pray together if you're in a relationship? Do you ever pray together with the person you are with? Do you read the Bible together? Or is that a passion killer? Are you guys going to tell me, that one is a passion killer? Ati, how can we pray together? We want to go to the hang and enjoy. I'm just putting things out there for you to get some insight into red flags, because they are there. They are there. But we need to bounce it. We need to really start looking inside. Violence. Dr. Dorcas' presentation was about violence in relationships. Huge red flag. Huge red flag. The trick is to be able to pick up if a person is hurt, because hurt people hurt people. A symptom of trauma, and we covered it in our last presentation, guys, is if there is something in us that we have not transformed or healed, we are going to transfer it. So if we are angry in ourselves, chances are that it is going to be very easy for us to speak disrespectfully to someone, that we are going to start becoming violent. And remember, violence is not only physical. Violence is not only physical. The physical ones we can see when we are hit, when we are physically hurt. But there are abuses that are also using words. Emotional abuse. Huge red flag. Huge red flag. And the only defense against it, especially the verbal abuse, is to know yourself and to build your spirit, because it will tell you immediately. If you know who you are, first and foremost, as a child of God, who are you? You are a son and daughter of God, the creator of everything. That in itself should be a starting point of who you are. So if that is your operating system and somebody comes and starts speaking disrespectful to you, and it is not corresponding with your operating system, can you see, here's my operating system. Boy, red flag, red flag. It's important to know who we are in God, first and foremost. And second, with ourselves. And trust and believe. If we can sort these two things out, you will have beautiful relationships, not just romantic ones, but in all your relationships. In all your relationships. I think there is many comments. There is so much that we can say on this. I think, Reverend, I will hand it over to yourself and our moderator, Brian. And I wish everybody good luck. It's not always easy, but in a wonderful group like this, I'm sure we can always find forums to discuss and to compare notes. Thank you. Thank you, Brian and Reverend Pauline.
Wow. Thank you so much, Madam Charil. I invite you to appreciate her through the chat, or you can unmute your videos only and clap for her. That was an excellent presentation. Some things I never knew they were red flags. I have known today. So I am sure you have been able to soul search and see the little red flags in your relationship or the big red flags. And now maybe the issue is, what are we going to do about them? We can look at the chat. I'll invite Brian to read a few chats. Brian, please, you can read a few chats.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thank you so much, dear Charlene. There are quite a lot of messages in appreciation of your presentation. People saying thank you. The presentation is so real. Thank you so much. So now I'll read for you one. I have a question. If you are in a relationship and you have been addicted to that person, later you start detecting the red flags, but quitting from that relationship becomes difficult. How can you handle that? That's question one. There is a comment. We are Christians. We should let God intervene in our relationships. And other appreciative comments. The presentation has been informative. There someone says that you are presenting challenging and provocative issues. The strong relationship depends on what is driving you or motivating you. We have to build our spirit and our relationship with God in order to get get a step, I think, higher in our relationships. That was a comment. Yeah, I'm looking for a question, but meanwhile, you can be responding to that.
Thank you, Brian. So yes, sometimes it happens we're in relationships with somebody and we think we cannot live without this person, right? Am I understanding correctly? We're addicted to this person. I think the response I would have to that is I would want to ask you, what is it? You need to go and really look. What is the need that this person is fulfilling in your life? What is it that this person is bringing to you that you feel you can only get from this person? The answer to that question will be extremely insightful. And chances are that you have been looking in the wrong area. Chances are that it is something that you will be able to fulfill in your spirit, or it is something that you will be able to fulfill in your own character. For example, a belief, and I think a lot of women, and it develops over many years, believe that that we must be dependent on a husband or a man to provide for us. We don't believe that we can live successful and happy lives within ourselves, right? So many women fall into that dating trap, that they go from one man to the next man to the next man, depending on where the best prospects are. We know them, the slayers. Is that terminology correct? The slayers, I think. I am not so in touch with the youth as you are, Brian. Is it slayers? Huh? You will tell me.
Slay queens.
The queens, yes, the queens. Huh? I always admire them. They are so beautiful. And then they walk on these 4 inches heels. Huh? I'm like, wow, how do they even manage? And the makeups are so beautiful. But we must look at what is it that is making us to be addicted to that person. Is it real or is it perceived? This is the thing. Any other questions, Brian?
Yes, thank you so much. The other question is, maybe I can say this comment. In most cases, the youth of our generation think having a lot of partners is an achievement, not considering the impacts which will happen And that ends up making us depressed because we can't be like our friends. I don't know that person means that we get depressed because if we don't have many partners, we are not like our friends. But that's a comment and maybe we need a reaction. Then why is it that planned marriages in our native African culture used to work so in the days of our ancestors and grandparents than the current ones where where people choose their own partners?
Okay, that's a good one, huh? Shall we start with that one?
Yes.
I'll give you my answer, but you know, there's an open platform. We can all contribute, huh? My answer to that question would be, back in the day when there was planned marriages, I mean, it wasn't last year, right? We can say this was the olden days, right? Planned marriages in the cultures. I think in those days, there was a lot of structure. The operating system was defined. The rules were defined. The roles and responsibilities were defined. There was a lot of respect. And I think if I can equate people, both parties respected the institute of that arranged marriage. And it lasted. It lasted. The engagement, the physical engagement did not start 2 years before the marriage. It was still a courtship, an introduction, and the two partners grew with each other. They were put in a situation where they just had to make it work. Whether it is right or wrong, for people to put people together in marriage that do not love each other, that is a whole another debate. But I think the reasons why those marriages worked and continues to work today or still stand today is because there was a lot of respect for the institution of it, and the operating systems were defined. What is happening in the youth? There's a lot of competition of how many partners we can have. Guys, that just screams operating system, operating system, operating system. Those are not men and women of God. And if you see it, it should not depress you. If you are a child of God, the Bible does not tell me, go and see how many chicks or how many boys I can do before I say I do. Let this be our truth. Let this be our guide, not what the others are doing outside. Wish them well. Look what is happening with the HIV numbers. It's going up. And today we don't even just have HIV, we now have corona as well, and all sorts. Our body is a temple. We get so many illnesses, sexual illnesses, diseases from engaging in too many partners. That will be my answer to that. Don't feel bad what others are doing. Know yourself first.
Yes, Reverend Pauline, before we proceed with the questions.
I wanted to chip in. Why was planned marriages in our native African culture? Why they used to work well? There's a growing tendency within this region, and especially here in Kenya, where we are trying we are seeing people over glorifying culture and calling us to go back to culture. And I think if you overdo anything, it becomes a problem. I think there is an over-glorification of traditional culture and a great call that people should go back to culture. When it comes to children burning schools, let's go back to our traditional roots. Things will be different. Now, one thing is for sure, I like the analogy you have used of operating system. the operating system in traditional culture and the operating system in 2030 is totally different. It is going back to traditional culture is like what Jesus calls putting new wine in old wineskins. They'll just burst. Now, this traditional culture where there was arranged marriage, do we know it ourselves? Were we there? Did we experience it? Can we vouch for it? Do we have examples of that culture and how it worked? I think the most we have is what we did in books, and now what our elder generation are trying to tell us that this is what used to happen, which may not be the case because we don't have any way of verifying the truth of what they are telling us or not. So for me, I look at it this way. In traditional culture, for example, we had arranged marriages. I witnessed in the Rendile culture, for example, here in Kenya, where I stayed for a month. I witnessed that in the Rendile culture, girls very young, from 9 years, 10 years, 12 years, get married. And in that culture, the man actually goes to live with the girl's parents. So the man who marries the girl goes and lives with the girl's parents. And the reason they do that is because the girl is so young. FGM has been done on her. Immediately after that, she has been married. So she's had to deal with two pains, the pains of her virginity being broken, and the pain of FGM. And at that very age, early age also, she gets pregnant. And the complications of that, the man will not be able to handle it. So it has to be handled by the mother of this child, who is a child actually. And that's why the man comes to live with them in the mother's home. I don't know what is so good in that culture that I can say that it used to work. The other thing is even in our own traditional culture, the Kikuyu culture, for example, where there used to be, there wasn't exactly arranged marriages, but there used to be something close to that. But what happened in that culture, if a man didn't get the fulfillment he wanted, the culture allowed him to marry again and again and again. And what did that reduce women to? Was that really something we can say it worked? I think we need to look at the real issues. Even now, where we have the Maasai culture, which is still in force, whereby young girls at 12, at 10, they get done FGM and then they get married. Is that culture really working? So if it worked in those days, it worked because that was the operating system and there was no otherwise. That is what they had. There was no formal education. There was no urbanization. Everybody lived in the rural places, went farming, looked after cattle. The life was easy in our own understanding. In their days, I'm sure they found it hard. But now, we cannot go back there. You guys leave school when you are 12, 13, 14 years, you leave home. In Kenya, this last year, children have been home for less than 2 months. The rest of the year, they have been in school, interacting with their peers. From there, they are going to go to university. They continue interacting with their peers. They continue getting influence from the urban centers and from the global village. How then can that glorified culture work for them at this moment? It cannot. So what we need to look at is to say, the operating, even with iPhone, Charlene, this iPhone of mine, it's an old one. Now they keep telling me that I should get a new one because even the updates can't cope with this one. Every other time there's a new operating system, This year I blessed myself with a new HP. Already there are newer versions of the same. Now, this operating system is what we have to really understand, because it's only when we understand the operating system that then we can say, how do we deal with the issues as they come within our operating system, and not look out of that operating system, because this is what we have. So when in my mother's time, women were to stay at home and men who worked in colonial time went to work in towns, those days are gone. When in my days, we were told that men were the breadwinners and women worked hard to become secretaries because you couldn't get a better job than your husband. Those also are gone days. You are going to be married to a president. and she's the president, for heaven's sake. I am not sure you are going to succeed to tell her to cook for you. Those are some of the operating systems we have to keep unpacking and realizing that the operating time is changing, and we have to change with the changing times. Now, as game changers, is to identify how do we change with the changing times and remain men and women of God, men and women of purpose, men and women who respect each other and who do not abuse and who do not put others in vulnerable situations. I think that is my take on this.
Very good, Reverend. I agree with you. I think when it comes to the issue of the culture, I think we have to be very clear that for purposes of this conversation, we are talking about consenting adults. We are talking about relationships adult to adult, not adult to children. Even in the Bible, there is no sentence that is written, they were married man and child. It's man and woman. The references also. So yes, there are cultures that is not supported by the operating system of the Bible, of God. That is the operating system that I am talking about.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tali. Thank you so much, our dear facilitator. I'll go through I think 5 questions on the chat so that you can handle them at once, and then we move towards the closure. So the first one is, what should be the best approach to decline a romantic relationship, especially if you are still in the journey of self-discovery? The second one is, what can you say on relationships that are based on certain things rather than true love? Okay. So this is a comment in capital letters. It hurts to love someone and not be loved in return. But there's a question after that. How do you recognize in advance someone with fake love? Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, what can someone do to avoid being addicted to someone? Over to you, Charlene.
Thank you. I think addicted to someone, we need to, I think we briefly touched on that. We need to understand what is driving this addiction. What particularly is it in this person that you feel you are addicted to? And you need to do an assessment as to what it is. Sometimes, often, this is not possible to do it ourselves. You may need to reach out to somebody to help you to understand the pattern or the need that it is that you are trying to, the void you are trying to fill with this person. Love hurts. We've all been there. We've all had our first love, the person that we were so in love with that we thought, gosh, life, you cannot even live without this person. And when the relationship does not work out, there is just so much pain, so much tears. Your heart is broken. You feel that your life is over. Yes, it hurts. But it is also a time when we learn a lot. And this is why it is so important not to compromise our bodies by having sexual relations. This is why it is so important not to compromise our own self-respect, and in order to make that relationship happen, we start compromising and eroding our operating system. It is hurtful, but if we keep our eyes on God, if we actively thank Him for the right partner that He chooses for us, remember, we don't choose them, He chooses for us, then this could smooth the road a bit. Fake love, I think if you start by removing the pleasures of the flesh, you start engaging without alcohol, I think you will very, very quickly see if it's fake love or real love. They will run, they will move from you. Relationships that are based on things and not true love, I think, you know, a relationship based on things. So you're in a relationship with somebody because of what you potentially get, or what you have access to. Again, it comes down to what is important for you in your life, you know. Things of this world will come and go. If you are dating somebody right now that has a lot of money, or that, you know, money comes and goes. What will you do when that person does not have money? Are you still going to be so in love with that person when this person cannot give you things? Are you still going to be so eager to send a text every 5 minutes, or to change your whole day's program to accommodate that person? This is the things that we need to ask ourselves. And the last question that we have, how do you decline a romantic relationship? I think this has many aspects to it. It depends where in the process you are. You know, if it is somebody that has approached you for the first time, and you know, again, it comes down to who you are. How do you know yourself? If it is a first encounter, I think you can be very diplomatic about it. If it is somebody that you've been in a relationship with for a long time, that makes it a little bit more difficult, right? Because the other person has a lot of expectations, a lot of belief about where this relationship is going. And this just underscores the importance of trying to at least keep the physical part of relationships out of it before we make life commitments or life decisions. It's not easy. It is not easy, I know, but try. It will bring a lot of clarity. It will bring a lot of clarity in your relationships. If there is difficult conversations that you need to have, good luck with it. If you are in relationships right now and you want to test them, try and take the physical part out of it and see how it will go. I think it will be insightful for all of us. Brian, is there any other questions?
Yes, thank you so much. This is the very, very last question, which has come about after you have actually mentioned that when we are falling in love or when we are getting partners, it is not us who get them, it is God who gets for us, you know, the partners. And indeed, it is a teaching that we have received as young people throughout the ages, that when it comes to marriage, it is God who chooses for you. You know, in church, they tell us, don't do this, don't mingle. When the time is right, God to bring the right person into life. And maybe we can talk a little bit about this. Sometimes we never get to know when that time is, and we never get to know, we are never given, the signals that to show us that this is the right person that God has brought. Because as you're walking around, you're going to find so many ladies. For example, I would say your heart will beat for one, and sometimes the heart may beat for 2 or 3, and you're wondering, okay, among this one, who of them is coming from God? So how do we know? How do you identify? Yeah.
That's a tough one, Brian. You see, if your heart beats for more than one, then you need to ask yourself, where is that heart beating? Is the heart beating up here or is beating down there? Huh? Which heart is beating? Huh? This is the thing. Let me tell you, all men that I have spoken to about this, without a doubt, they will tell you, when they meet the one, they know it's the one. And if that one says there will be no humpy pumpy for 3 years, you will just say, yes, it's okay. There will be no humpy pumpy for 3 years, because you know it's the one. You will know it the moment you meet her. And often the man will know even before the woman. I think this is where we just have to trust our Heavenly Father. I'm not saying stay away from the hang, huh? Try and not give in to the beating hearts. If we can determine if it's beating upstairs or downstairs, enjoy the hang. Try to avoid the booze. Huh? Try and avoid that one, because that one messes the whole clarity business. Huh? That one messes it all up. And then Monday you wake up like, oh gosh, what did I do this weekend? Or who did I do? Huh? We don't even know. So just trust in the Lord, and enjoy your life. I'm not saying sit at home and not go out. Go out, have fun. But always thank the Lord. Lord, thank you. I know you will bring him. I know you will bring her, and it will be the right one for me. And you will know when you meet them. Reverend, what do you think about this subject of knowing when it is the one?
We have actually written a paper with Brian. That's why Brian is asking this question. And we were interrogating a story of a young woman who was told, who took that seriously, that teaching seriously, that God will bring somebody. And when somebody came, she did not have the skills. So I will say that that teaching must be accompanied by skills, like what you are saying. When you hear the heart beating, where is it beating? That is a skill. Then the second one is also to ask, when you meet this person, how do you know that this is the person you are meeting? I think those are the skills the young people need to develop. And for me, I'm thinking that this is a discussion that can go on again now with the new life event experiences, because sometimes when that teaching is done in church, it is not accompanied with skills development, so that these young people grow with that fear that I must not mingle so much because I wait for that person time that God will bring somebody. And sometimes opportunities also escape. You meet some very good people and you refuse to hang out with them or to discover them as you discover yourself. So for me, I would say, yes, that person will come from God, but also, yes, that waiting for God to bring somebody must be accompanied by skills, so that you are aware, like all the things that Charina said today about the red flags. All those things will be able to tell you whether this person is coming from God, whether it is the heart up there that is beating, or whether this person is coming from your imagination or from your desires, or whether it is the heart down there which is actually beating. So that is for me the way I would look at it. Yes, the person will come from God, but you have to have the skills to know, yes, this one comes from God and not this one. Maybe if we continue that way, we will get tied up again with the Bible, because the Bible, somebody said, is like a bush in which you can go, get lost, or even find your way. Because some people will start asking, what if God commands you to marry a prostitute, like he commanded Hosea? What are you going to do? Now, those are difficult questions, theological questions, which we cannot answer in this sitting. And maybe we'll have to call Dr. Dorcas Chebet once again to come back and answer. What if God calls you or brings the prostitute your way? What if God brings the murderer from the maximum prison and says, you marry this one? Now we have to interrogate. How did you hear it was the voice of God? How do you need not your own imagination? And how do you go about it? If it is the voice of God, what did God say was the purpose of it? I mean, there are all those many things running around. So I would say, yes, God will bring somebody, but as you wait, you need to develop skills. Like what we have learned today is amazingly so much. Amazingly so much. My heart goes back to the person who was saying that you feel that you are not dating the right person, but you have got so much hooked to them that you can't quit. I will tell you, you can still quit. It is better to quit now than later. Because if you're not yet married, you are not married, you are just friends, you can quit. It's easy. You don't need divorce process. You don't need anything. You just need to meet, discuss about it, agree to love each other and let each other go. Because even that is an expression of love. You can love somebody much enough to allow them to go and find their fulfillment elsewhere. So anyway, I am so excited, and this discussion can go on and on and on. But as we wait, let's develop the skills. Let's watch out for the red flags. I think you can go back and look at what we have learned today and have a book in your secret journal. Try and outline what you think are the red flags in your relationship. What do you think you're going to do about them? Do you have enough paint to paint them green? Or do you just need to know that this is a wake-up call, that I'm in the wrong relationship and I need to do something? Yes, are you done, Charin? Do you want to say something else?
No, I think that was a very fitting end from our chair. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that insight.
All right. Dr. Chebet, you want to say something to just a punchline as we close?
I just want to appreciate my sister who has just done the presentation. It was very powerful. It was actually an icing on the cake.
Kindly, I request Dr. Dorcas to put on video so that I can have her photo as she speaks.
Let us all unmute our video so that we can take a group picture.
But now we can have Dr. Dorcas to unmute as she speaks.
Okay.
You want me to continue speaking?
Yes.
Now? Oh, yeah. Okay. I was just saying I am blessed with the presentation of the speaker was just presented. And I just want to challenge Reverend Dr. Pauline. Is it possible for me and my sister to be sponsored to co-author a book on what we have presented? I don't know. I'm just thinking loud about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am happy to have that conversation going.
Yes.
Maybe we can look at all the topics we have covered. Yes. I am just told, okay, let us have this conversation outside this this meeting. Okay. Because I think we will lose some people. Okay. Have you done with your comments?
Yes, I'm through.
Thank you so much. Those of you who are looking for opportunities to study, you have heard that Dr. Chebet is a senior lecturer in Pwani University. For your master's, for your postgraduate work, please, that's a place to look at. You have a mentor there. And those of you who are continuing in your own places, let us continue to be game changers. It has been a wonderful moment for me. I was saying yesterday that one of the most positive things of COVID-19 was that we were able to have a platform that brings so many of us together, which would have never happened without movement restrictions, because we always believed in going to Rwanda, going to Uganda, meeting a few youths. But with this platform, we have been able to meet so many young people. It is my prayer that we are going to fan the flame of game changers in all the countries. I am waiting to see your plans for next year, what you are going to be doing with the young people, joining university, the young people in the schools, and with yourselves. And where possible, we will work together. We will work together in making sure that your dreams in pushing forward our agenda for game changers is realized. So I thank you so much for logging in today. Please remember to put your name and mobile money number, including the country code, so that the team can refund you. It sometimes becomes very difficult to refund data when we don't have that information. And this time around, we want to be able to return data, but it will only be done for those people who put their names and number on the chat. So thank you so much. With those few remarks, I want to say that we are doing well. We have come from far and we are going far. We are going well. I challenge you once again in your country groups to start meeting together start meeting together. WCC-EHAIA can provide for you the Zoom link to meet together, begin doing something within your country, and let the fire of game changers keep burning. The fire started in Uganda, it has spread all over Eastern Africa. It must keep burning. It is a good practice which has been shared throughout the continent, and other regions are buying it. So it is good that we who started it keep it going. We are also waiting, Brian and myself, to see if there is any suggestions for the end of year event. December 31st, 10 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. May the Lord continue to bless you. With those few remarks, I will invite one of us to do the closing prayer, and that will be Reverend Rendia Chemei. We have Reverend Rendia Chemei with us. Yes, Rendia? Has she left? Okay.
Yes, Dr.
She's
Pauline,
on.
I'm here.
Yes, yes. So I'm giving you the opportunity to do the closing prayer for us and disperse us with the Lord's blessing.
Okay, thank you. Let us pray. Our loving and merciful God, we are so grateful that you've given us a chance to gather here together and have this conversation. We are so grateful that you've graciously provided for us in so many ways that this has been possible, and you give back all the glory and all the honor to you. And God, thanks for the insights we've been able to learn from one another. We pray that you help us as we navigate different realities, different struggles at the different points we are at in life, that God, we will continue to look up to you as we wait on you to give us wisdom and grace and strength to make decisions and to keep moving as you lead and as you direct us. And now we ask that you dispense us with your blessings and you continue to keep us safe up to another time when we will be able to meet again. We give back glory and honor to you. And we thank you that you hear us every time we pray. And all this we ask for with faith in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. You are now dismissed. You can leave at will. The link.
You are muted.
Sorry, I'm saying the link of 16 days is being sent to the groups. You are welcome to join in to climax the 16 days of activism tomorrow, which is the last day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.